Well, I want to start by saying welcome to Uplift family, to our friends, to our guests. Thank you for taking time to share in this brief series teaching as we are in a new series called RSVP. It's a 4-part series. This is an opportunity for me at least to share a little bit more with you as our members and our friends to make sure you're being uplifted in your mind. As our mission at Uplift Church is to uplift minds, to uplift hearts, and to uplift spirits. And so I'll share a little bit in this particular platform to aid to what's being shared in our sermon series. And so this will be a little bit more teaching to help you reflect a little more on what you've heard on Sunday morning. We, again, are in the series RSVP, a 4-part series. This is part 1 of the series, and we preached a sermon. I preached a sermon on Sunday called Invited to Invite. We shared that God is having a party. It's a party that's been going on for centuries, and we are invited to the party. But not only are we invited to the party, we are invited to invite others. So let's take a look again at Luke chapter number 14. The story opens up with Jesus at a dinner party hosted by a prominent Pharisee. I shared that a large portion of the Pharisees did not like Jesus, and so it's somewhat comical that Jesus is at their dinner party. But it does not mean that all Pharisees did not like Jesus. In chapter number 13, Luke shares with us that it was the Pharisees, or some of the Pharisees, who let Jesus know that Herod was looking for him. So some had neutral relationships with Jesus. But as we get to chapter number 14, Luke has already spent quite a bit of time showing us Jesus's activities on the Sabbath day or on the holy day. And for the Pharisees, you were not supposed to work on the holy day. For them, certain things were not allowed. Women could not comb their hair. You could not tie a knot. These are sort of things that they considered to be work. And so Jesus's activities were considered to them to be work and therefore breaking the law. And so Luke opens up by saying in chapter 14 that they were watching him closely. They pretty much had him under surveillance to see if he would break the law. And while they are at this dinner party, Jesus heals a man. But check this out. The Bible never says that the man asked to be healed. Jesus saw his issue and healed him. And for those of us who have been in church any length of time, you know that there are times your life has been changed. You have gotten your breakthrough by simply being in the presence of Jesus. And so that says a lot about being in God's presence, that life change does happen when you are near the presence and the power of Jesus. From there, Luke transitions into sharing with us a story that Jesus told the Pharisees around him to help them understand more about the kingdom of God. Jesus says in the story that a certain man was having a party. This man sent his servant to engage with his guests to make sure they were going to come. He pretty much asked them to RSVP. And then the man prepares the party and sends his servant again to say the party is ready, everything is here, you all can now come. But when they do that, when the servant goes out to invite them to the actual party, the text says that they said no, they all declined. What's interesting, what's shocking is not just some of them declined, but all of them declined, and they declined with some very weak excuses. One said, I have bought a field and I need to go check the field out. Well, that suggests that you purchased something that you didn't even take a look at, and that wasn't common in that time. Normally, they would look at what they're going to purchase, they would look at the field, and then make a decision to purchase it. And so this man's excuse was very weak. The next excuse was that I bought some oxen, and I can't make it to the party because I've got to go try the oxen out. Again, this doesn't really stand up because before purchasing the oxen, you would have tried them out to make sure you wanted to at least buy them. And the third one, at first, seems like he has a reasonable excuse by saying, I just got married. But we have to remember, the RSVP went out. And when the RSVP went out, he already knew he was going to get married, and he made a decision to say, yes, I'm going to come. But then when it comes time for him to show up, he has an excuse. I want us to take a moment, take some time to think about the weak excuses people use for rejecting God's invite. I got to get my life together. I'm working on some things. Once I get back on my feet, then I'll come to church. Then I'll give my life to Christ. Once I fix some stuff with me. Take some time, if you're in a group discussion, ask the question amongst yourselves, what are some of the excuses you have heard or maybe you have used as to why people are rejecting or have rejected God's invite to God's party? The host then became angry because their rejection was a personal insult. And to respond, Jesus says that the host sends the servant into the street, which means a wide area that's traveled by a variety of people of various backgrounds. He also sends him to the alleys, which was places that were more narrow and side streets where you would find the loiterers, you would find those who are the outcasts to society. And the host says, tell them to come. The servant goes and invites those people in, and he says to the host, there's still more room. And then the host sends him out into the highways and the byways, rather, to pull people in, to compel them to come in. This word compel does not mean that he forced them to come in or coerced them to come in, but rather this means overwhelm them with kindness and your hospitality in such a way that they want to come to the party. Take some time now to think about how important it was for the host to have his house full. And then I want you to think about how important it is for God to see his church full. Because again, the host is a representation of God. How important do you consider it? Do you think it is for God house to be full? If you're in a group dialogue, if you're in a group discussion or small group, take some time to think about that. How important do you think God views his church being full? Now, take some time to think about or to discuss the servant. Look at the efforts the servant went through, the efforts the servant took to fill the house. He went to the street. He went to the alleys. He compelled people to come in to the host party.